Now, before we find out what 24 has in store, let's recap WWE and AEW's gold rush of 23, a year that saw divine constants, timeline branches, disintegrations, revelations, and amalgamations all the way to New Year's Eve. We begin our sports entertainment animated almanac with AEW's highest honor and the scumbag that until recently was squeezing it. The AEW World Championship was fastened around the waist of Maxwell Jacob Friedman throughout most of 2023. Whilst the champion didn't change for the better part of the year, the champion himself has, if you catch my drift. At the start of the reign, he declared that he'd defend as little as he could and would hold the gold hostage right up till the bidding war of 2024. He survived a 60-minute Iron Man match against Bryan Danielson by the skin of his teeth back in March before putting down his pillar peers at Double or Nothing. A bromance grew with Adam Cole that saw Maxwell Jacob Friedman become an unexpected character arc. Cole and Friedman became the best of friends, which kept us guessing which Scorpion would sting first, all the way to All In at Wembley Stadium, where neither of them did. MJF retained his title and his best friend, seemingly impossible in the world of wrestling. From here, MJF choked Samoa Joe out at Dynamite Grand Slam, put in a title-galvanizing performance against Kenny Omega on Collision, and went into nigh-on God mode to blunt Switchblade Jay White at Full Gear, on one leg and one arm, no less. MJF started the year as AEW's most hated. He closed it out as AEW's most beloved, all whilst bedecking the world champion with prestige and a lot of Burberry. However, Max's world ended at World's End when Samoa Joe rocked up in the clutch and put on the clutch, forcing the life out of MJF's title reign. Max has been left to pick up the pieces of his broken body from a year on top and his broken heart from a friendship devilishly destroyed. As for Joe, 2024 looks to be his biggest year ever. Joe has already declared war on all of your favourites as AEW Kingpin, and that hero haranguing looks to start imminently. Whilst the Men's World Championship almost held steady for an entire year, the Women's World Title has had a shift from time to timeless. In 2023, Jamie Hayter's dominant streak as Queen of the Mountain reached an unexpected impasse. Despite turning back title tussles from Ruby Soho, Saraya, and the inaugural champion Rio, Hayter's body racked up a litany of injuries that led to Toni Storm snatching the gold back at Double or Nothing. Toni's time on top saw her deflect detractions from the likes of New Japan Strong Women's Champion Willow Nightingale and Taya Valkyrie before the clock stopped at Hikaru Shida on the 200th episode of Dynamite. Hikaru's second run was a sprint as opposed to a marathon, powered by 80,000 plus of her home country fans, her entire family are ringside, and We Will Rock You by Queen. Saraya won a title four-way at Wembley Stadium to claim her first women's championship in almost a decade. The Saraya era saw two matches, a defense over Toni Storm at Grand Slam and a loss back to Hikaru Shida a little bit later on, concluding a Bohemian Rhapsody that only really served to garner a big crowd pop in the UK. Outside of that, nothing really matters. Anyone can see. It was clear from the off that Shida's third run was a reign designed to keep the title warm, whilst the star of the women's division was warming up. When timeless Toni Storm was ready for her close-up, she stepped into the spotlight, and at Full Gear, a star was reborn. Toni's third title run, and arguably her biggest role of her career, has really reignited a somewhat identityless women's championship division. 2024 looks like Toni Storm's biggest year to date, like Samoa Joe, and with the arrival of superfan Mariah May, the apparently impending arrival of Mercedes Moné, and the fiery return of Jamie Hayter, there may be quite the supporting cast for Toni Storm to keep her eye on. In the next screen along from Toni Storm's blockbuster, we have the saga of the TBS title. 2023 started the same way 2022 did, with Jade Cargill as both the irresistible force and the immovable object of the division. Cargill left challengers of all shapes and sizes jaded in the first half of the year, but all of that came to an unexpected end at Double or Nothing. After successfully putting Taya Valkyrie away, a returning Chris Statlander jumped at an open challenge. Less than a minute later, Statlander had blemished Jade's record and become the second ever TBS champion. Statlander put the working boots on throughout the summer and into the autumn, booping away potential incumbents like Nyla Rose, Marina Shafir, Mercedes Martinez, and Ruby Soho. Jade eventually came back for what was hers. And in September, a hasty title rematch saw Stat stop Jade a second time. And this turned out to be a shotgun title challenge designed to cement Statlander as top brass and allow Jade Cargill to bow out of AEW to pursue future endeavors in the venue formerly known as McMahon Land. Statlander's stats stopped at Full Gear, with House of Black's mist-spitting Madam Julia Hart claiming her first ever title, a reign that is now in its dark and gloomy infancy. Infancy being the operative word, because at 22 years old, Julia Hart is now the youngest AEW champion in company history. The TBS title has very much been established as a potential career-building mid-card belt, one that younger talents chase while grinding for enough XP to challenge for the world title. Statlander's orbit will hopefully be around Timeless Tony's title in 2024, as Julia leads the house in the middle of the road. Now, let's change the channel, shall we, and see how 2023 treated the TNT title, a belt that has had its fuse dampened in years gone by due to a lack of clear direction or a lack of purpose. The belt was in the clutches of Samoa Joe when the clock struck midnight on January the 1st, but was wrested away and wrestled away by Darby Allin just a few days later. Joe didn't like being without his other title, so he yanked it back with a muscle buster on the exposed canvas on Dynamite a few weeks later. Wrestling's hot potato plates continued to be tossed around from here. Wardlow beat Joe a few weeks later, Powerhouse Hobbs beat Wardlow a few days later, and before this loss, a random criminal got a TNT title run apparently. Wardlow's car got broken into, and the thieves made off with the belt. Is that canon? I think that's canon. Wardlow got his car fixed and took his belt back from Hobbs in April, before getting into drama with Christian Cage and his charge, Evil Dinosaur Luchasaurus, now known as Killswitch. It would be Saurus that snatched the strap from Wardlow on the first episode of Collision, with Christian Cage taking it upon himself to wear his Monsters title until he won it for himself in a three-way match, including Darby Allin. Cage has added some much-needed stability and identity to this oft-forgotten-about belt, and now features heavily in Cage's blood feud with his brother Adam Copeland, along with numerous WWE references and jokes about dead dads. This not-sibling rivalry actually saw Adam Copeland win the dubious accolade of being AEW's shortest reigning champion ever. Cope had hope dashed when he won the AEW TNT title from Cage at World's End. Mere moments afterwards, he was attacked by Killswitch and pinned by Christian Cage to take the title back. Will Cage keep his half-brother's hands off the belt? He may have to keep tabs on his half-dinosaur at the same time, though. From TNT, we go to AEW's other mid-card male accolade, which has spent most of 2023 with a tint of orange. The AEW International Championship was taken from PAC by Orange Cassidy last October, and almost despite his detractors, he went on to crush it as champ, almost weekly, sometimes twice weekly title defenses against anyone and everyone that Orange greenlit. It made him the hardest working champion in wrestling, and it became as consistent as night following day. Cassidy shuffles to the ring, removes the international title from his backpack, Twitter gets angry, gets underestimated, gets creative, gets a win, gets himself away. Cassidy even put the belt on the line in a 21-man blackjack battle royal at Double or Nothing and pulled a royal flush on all of his peers by winning the whole thing. It all came to a crushing finale at the hands of Jon Moxley, who had to almost kill the champ to get him down for 3 seconds. Moxley was fixing up for a similarly hectic championship schedule, but it was cut short when he suffered a concussion in a match against Phoenix, and an audible saw the Lucha Bro become champion. However, Phoenix was also nursing multiple injuries, which led to Orange pocketing the title for a second time, a move that surprised many, as it was kind of believed that OC had 100%ed as international champion, side quests and all. So whilst it was great to see him find the formula to beat Jon Moxley in a rematch at Full Gear, it has left people asking, where does Orange Cassidy go from here? And with another mid-card championship now in play, more on that later, where does this leave the international title in 2023? Well, we are on the way to finding out, aren't we? Now, when it comes to that new title, well, there's not loads to say about it at this point, as it's only just sprung from Tony's loins and landed on the shoulder of Eddie Kingston mere days before Hootenanny. The new belt in town, the AEW Continental Crown, alongside the New Japan Strong Openweight and the ROH World Championship, forms an impressive Triple Crown accolade. Eddie Kingston, who bet his belts in the Continental Classic and came out on top of it all, did it to prove that he really was the real deal. Also, he did it so he could probably at some point recreate that Vader Triple Crown title picture. I don't think it's happened yet, but give it time. What does 2024 hold in store for the Triple Crown holder? Honestly, not a clue. The Mad King will be the standard bearer in 3 promotions, and with that will no doubt come a lot of responsibility, as well as a hefty baggage bill at most international airports. Will be intriguing to see how AEW handle a Triple Crown on top of all their other belts. Now, from 1 holding 3 to 2 holding 1, the AEW World Tag Team titles were scissored away from Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland last autumn, and the year began with the Acclaimed as the Undisputed. They turned back 2 challenges from the total non-stop arseholes Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett before falling, much to everybody's surprise, to Austin and Colton Gunn on Dynamite in February. It wouldn't be long until FTR would re-enter the picture, having had an iconic run as ROH Tag Champions and worked the same magic on the AEW Doubles division. FTR was picking up W's against Bullet Club Gold, the Young Bucks, Aussie Open, and the beloved bromancers Adam Cole and MJF in what was less a title run and more a title sprint. The blistering quality of matches during FTR's second go-around as tag champs was a real defining part of the early days of AEW Collision. There was speculation that their superbly entertaining summer with the straps would end prematurely, as Cash Wheeler found himself on the wrong side of the law, just days before AEW's biggest night out ever at Wembley Stadium. Whilst they'd be present and correct for All In, and even push back an almighty challenge from Matt and Nick Jackson, FTR would fall in quick and aggressive fashion to the team of Ricky Starks and Big Bill a few weeks later on Collision. They were unsuccessful in an attempt to grab the belt back in a 4-team ladder match at Full Gear, suggesting that 2024 is looking wide open for the champions. In terms of where the belts go next, FTR will no doubt reclaim their lost glory in the new year at some point, but for now, the tag titles are giving 2 single stars some much needed direction in a very busy pool of AEW talent. Now, 2's company, but 3 is a crowd. Let's take a look at the lay of the land in the Trios division. The AEW World Trios titles started in the center of a death triangle back in January, as it had in the previous autumn. When the Elite returned, they did so and took back the belts that they were stripped of in style. A best of 7 that saw this hexagon of heavyweight hitting hard and heightening the hijinks before, definitively, Kenny Omega and the Bucks bested Pac, Penta and Phoenix at the steps of death to become 2-time Trios title boys. Their run as a mean-some threesome was halted less than 2 months later by the Dark Matter Matman, the House of Black. Brody King, Buddy Matthews and Malachi Black grafted as champs, seeing off challenges from the likes of Best Friends and Orange Cassidy and FTR and CM Punk. They shut out the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn on 2 separate occasions, defeats so crushing that they almost forced Gunn into retirement. He shook it off though, and for one night only became Badass Billy Gunn, which is like Billy Gunn but slightly different pants. In front of AEW's biggest crowd ever, the scissoring Super Pals finally unlocked the House of Black and took all 3 titles. They proceeded to put all of them into storage and unveil hot pink titles complete with scissor-shaped straps. They are adorable. Weirdly though, winning these Trios titles and painting them hot pink have made the Acclaimed less visible on AEW than they were before, which promptly led to an alliance with AEW World Champion MJF and the subsequent beating by the Devil and his cronies for his trouble. Currently, there doesn't seem to be as much heat around the Trios championships when compared to other golden offerings in AEW, but the cold touch of the House of Black may be something that could change that in 2024. Now, since they've been so prominently featured on AEW TV, for better or for worse in 2023, it's only right that we roll call the Ring of Honor Championships before we move on to the belt movements in WWE. The ROH World Six-Man Tag Team titles have spent most of 2023 in Prince Nana's locker. The Mogul Embassy held the belts till Hangman Page and the Young Bucks took them in the midst of Page's feud with Swerve Strickland. Moguls then took them back via Swerve-scented shenanigans at the start of November, where they have been pretty much ever since. Who takes them? Dalton Castle and the boys, maybe? Yeah. The ROH World Tag Team titles were held by the Briscoes at the start of this year. That was until Jay Briscoe's tragic passing in April. This led to a tribute match for Jay, where the Lucha Brothers were crowned new champions. This led to them falling to Aussie Open at Death Before Dishonor in July, who a month later were beaten by the power of friendship. Adam Cole and MJF, mere hours before headlining the biggest show in AEW history, dethroned Carl Fletcher and Mark Davis. Adam Cole's injury did not slow things down. MJF was defending the title on AEW pay-per-views, either flying solo or with strange bedfellows like Samoa Joe at Full Gear. However, it turned out the devil was in the detail all along. Masked men under the employ of the Mystery Devil took the titles from MJF. They turned out to be Matt Taven and Mike Kanellis of the Kingdom, Roddy's mates, part of this new devious supergroup formed by former best friend Adam Cole. This means that the Honourable Doubles should be back on Ring of Honor TV soon, which would be nice to see. Speaking of TV, the ROH World Television title was held all year by an unstoppable Samoa Joe. That is, until Joe decided to end his historic over 300-day reign by relinquishing the title, citing even bigger fish to fry. Boy, was he right. This led to Carl Fletcher putting in a career performance and becoming the new TV champion at ROH Final Battle. Good things ahead for him. Just the two ROH Pure champions to mention here. Wheeler Yuta was the Pure champ on Jan 1st, and Shibata kicked the belt off him at Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor in March. Shibata's comeback from a career, nay, life-ending injury has been incredible, but his comeback was set back when BCC's Wheeler Yuta took the belt back once more in November. A strong defense against filthy Tom Lawler under his belt. The once again behind the wheel Yuta is leading the revamped Pure division in ROH. Athena has completed one full calendar year as ROH Women's Champion. She made history, becoming the first women's champ to headline an ROH pay-per-view in Death Before Dishonor, and she did it again at Final Battle, headlining against Billy Starks in what proved to be Billy's final test to becoming a minion. Athena's Roman Reigns-like dominance of the division has led to a similar Romanesque result, the introduction of a new championship for people to fight over in the Ring of Honor Women's Division, the ROH Women's TV title. More on that next year. And we wrap up our whistle-stop ROH tour with the men's world title. Claudio Castagnoli spent the year neutralizing competition until Eddie Kingston finally grabbed the belt at Grand Slam. In a New York Minute, Eddie has proven to be the guts and the glory that Ring of Honor truly needs as a gold holder. He battled through the first ever Continental Classic to prove that as well. We move from Thursday on Honor Club to Tuesday on USA with a spin around WWE's developmental, or if you're a TV exec watching this, WWE's third brand that is just as big and important. We're talking NXT. We say hello by saying goodbye. This year, we said farewell, seemingly forever, to the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter got an elongated run that wrapped up early in 2023 at the hands of Fallon Henley and Kiana James. They came unstuck by the spooky combo of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn at Stand and Deliver, who post-draft fell to WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, turning 4 into 2, as if by witchcraft. The men's tag titles in NXT continue on, though, with the legendary team, The New Day, holding the gold as 2023 began. Their sojourn to Tuesdays ended when Gallus won a tag title four-way of Vengeance Day in February, and they kissed the belts goodbye in the summer of the Great American Bash, losing to Tony D'Angelo and Stax. The family were rocked by Chase U until underhanded deeds led the belts to finding their way back to the family to close out the year. Could we see Chase U graduate as two-time champs in 2024? Or will a team like Out of the Mud come out of the mud? Whilst we said farewell to the women's tag, we said hello again to an item recovered from a mothballed BT Sports Studios. Noam Dar made his NXT USA debut with him and brought the NXT UK Heritage Cup, the trophy with whom you'd pay homage to the world of sport stars that weren't Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. Cue silliness with Dar and his new mates, the metaphor, and belt-based bollocks involving Nathan Frazier, a fake trophy, and Akira Tozawa's kleptomania. More bollocks in 2024, please. The world is far brighter for it. The NXT North American Championship has been in the midst of some of WWE's biggest storylines this year, thanks to Dirty Dominic Mysterio. The Judgment Day helped Dirty Dom end Wesley's 260-plus days as North American ambassador. There was a Trick Williams hiccup at No Mercy in September, but that was quickly rectified, and Dom was reinstalled as champ a few days later. It felt like Wesley would be the guy who would usurp Dirty Dom, but his injury saw one of Dirty Dom's old foes in Dragon Lee re-emerge on Tuesday nights to snatch the strap, leaving Dom jailhouse rocked and Dragon Lee mixing it up on NXT once more. Lee may only be a stopgap, as he's been receiving some top marks on the main roster. Maybe one of Drew Gulak's Catch Clan colleagues could collect from Dragon Lee. Or maybe this is where Jersey boy Nathan Frazier's cream rises to the top. We'll find out. There's been a lot of moving and shaking in the NXT Women's Championship realm in 2023. Roxanne Perez began a sudden title run before Christmas when Mandy Rose got released for OnlyFans-flavoured naughtiness. She was almost stripped of the title due to after effects of a blistering war with Meiko Satomura. When she opened up about her struggles with overcoming anxiety, she was added to a 6-way ladder match, only to lose the title to Indy Hartwell in said match. When Indy was forced to rescind the title due to injury, Tiffany Stratton bested the locker room in a tournament to become the new champ. A Twitter spat with Becky Lynch led to a manhandle slam and the man claiming the title that eluded her during her time in WWE. The NXT Women's Champion was Becky Lynch, and her tour of Tuesday nights featured an Extreme Rules main event with Tiff Strats and concluded with a clean loss to Lyra Valkyria at Halloween Havoc. Lyra's been locked in conflict with the likes of Xia Li and Blair Davenport ever since. Those two, plus the return of the likes of Nikita Lyons and Cora Jade, make for a spicy selection in 2024. Just 2 title twists for the men's NXT title in 2023. The first being Carmelo Hayes stopping the seemingly unstoppable Bron Breakker at Stand and Deliver. Top marks to Bron, by the way, who defeated former WWE champion Jinder Mahal in his last successful title defense. Melo didn't miss in matches against the likes of Grayson Waller, Baron Corbin, Ilya Dragunov, and Wes Lee throughout the year. However, the mighty Dragunov would not be denied. His second go around, he took the title from Carmelo Hayes at No Mercy in September and has been there ever since. There was a rematch at Halloween Havoc that certified Ilya as the man, and a defense at Deadline against Weird Uncle Who Won't Leave, Baron Corbin, which gave a strong starting point for 2024. So we move up to the main roster to cast our eyes over 12 months of title movements, or in several cases, non-movements in WWE. We start with the beleaguered Buddy Belts, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Damage Control began the year with the titles, dropping them to the makeshift team of Becky Lynch and Lita on Raw in February. When Lita was unable to defend the gold post-Mania, Trish Stratus stepped in to tag with the man, and subsequently, the pair fell to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. This would be the catalyst for Trish and Becky to spend the better part of the year knocking lumps out of each other. And we bloody loved it, didn't we? We bloody loved it. We get just a taste of what the new champs can do before injuries once again throw the belt into vacancy. It's a refreshing change for Liv, who at this point is used to having tag partners merely turn on her as opposed to injury woes. The mixed martial arseholes Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey form a violent connection and rightfully take the tag titles. They proceed to unify them with the NXT Women's Tag Championships, and the roadmap is laid out for these two to bully, batter and bludgeon the women's div in almost Road Warrior-esque fashion. That is, until Money in the Bank, when Shayna shafted Ronda, turning on her longtime friend and handing the titles back to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez in the process. It transpired that Ronda was winding down her career, and plans for a UFC horsewoman breakup was sped up so Rousey could put her mate over before signing off. They barely had time to put their names on the belts when Liv and Raquel lost them to Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. It was supposed to be Chelsea and Carmella, but Mella left to become a mama, so Sonya was replacing Chelsea Green in this team. However, Sonya Deville then suffered an injury which forced her to the sidelines and led to Chelsea Green teaming with post-Doudropped Piper Niven instead. Just days before Christmas, Katana Chance and Caden Carter got an early present when they soundly defeated Green and Piper on Monday Night Raw. The hex on the women's title, which was made briefly storyline canon by Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, is hopefully behind us now, with Katana Chance and Caden Carter back on top of the women's division, this time with the main ones. But the women's landscape still needs some landscaping. More hardened, well-oiled tag specialists and less two wrestlers lobbed together with fingers crossed. The men's tag team titles have seen some action in 2023. The Usos rounded off a record-breaking run as undisputed tag champs with a loss to the Bloodline Breakers, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, marking the first time ever the tag team championships have main evented WrestleMania. Zayn and Owens' victory was incredibly well received, and despite some injury blips, they represented well. They headlined Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, retaining the gold against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, a match that led to the defection of the Usos. Their time on top ended in Pittsburgh at Payback, where no amount of hockey references could keep the Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Damian Priest from taking the titles in a captivating street fight. Now from here, the belts bounced briefly to the team of Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso, a move that gave us a feel-good moment at WWE Fastlane and a giggly Jey and Cody in the post-show media scrum. Yeet! The JD yeeted the belts back on Raw a few short days later, while remaining in that camp as the leaders of the doubles division ever since. Now, in contrast to the women's tag league, the men's two-man groups are looking strong heading into 2024. The Alpha Academy are hotter than ever. I thank you! DIY are back together and are bubbling under. The Street Profits have some new momentum under the watch of Bobby Lashley. We're looking at the return of the Authors of Pain very soon. The Creed brothers, new boys on campus looking to play some Brutus ball with the best of them. There's a lot in there. There was consideration that 2024 would be the year that WWE split the tag titles once again, but judging by some of the rumoured new belt designs doing the rounds, they may keep Raw and SmackDown Gold permanently fused, which I don't think is the worst thing. The Judgment Day have been such a hot prospect this year, then why would you keep them on one show if you have the power, storyline-wise, to put them on all of them? Seems to make sense to me. Maybe. I don't know. 2023 ends with the WWE United States Championship in an intriguing place on the wrestling map. Often sidelined for lack of interest, the way it ends has arguably put more eyes on it than any other title around in the grand scheme of things. I'll talk about it, but it began with Austin Theory, who, despite surviving challenges from the likes of Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, Edge, Sheamus and John Cena, as well as overcoming an Elimination Chamber match, it was quite a forgotten run, which is weird when you list all of that. The malaise around what to do with Vince McMahon's pet project led to Theory losing the golds to the winner of the Wrestling World Cup, Rey Mysterio, on SmackDown in August. Mysterio bested the former champ at Payback and his LWO buddy Santos Escobar a few weeks later before running foul of YouTube sensation Logan Paul. After Paul won his boxing match, he told the world he wanted to fight Rey Mysterio for the WWE United States title, and fight him he did at Crown Jewel. Paul even defeated the Hall of Famer to win his first official title in WWE on that night. Logan's been having a right laugh with the title on social media, trying to pawn it off, showering with it, even bonking with it, despite Triple H telling him to explicitly not bonk the belt. It's a title change that has purists clutching pearls, but has made the United States Championship more interesting than it's been and more visible than it's been in many, many years. Logan Paul is no doubt going to create more viral moments with the gold before he falls to an old enemy. Somebody he caught the ire of last year that is looking for his first championship in WWE. Do you know who I mean? Yeah, you do. That's right. Him. In contrast to the silliness and the skits around the US Championship, the WWE Intercontinental Championship has been all about wrestling excellence. The mat is sacred, as the record-breaking Intercontinental Weltmeister Gunther has proved all year long. He put in a hell of a performance at the Royal Rumble. He had a Match of the Year contender against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. He has smacked, chopped, popped and dropped through contenders as if they were driftwood. Braun Strowman, Matt Riddle, Mustafa Ali, Chad Gable, Bronson Reed, Tommaso Ciampa, The Miz, My Hand Hurts and more have been traffic cones to the bulldozer that is the Ring General in 2023. He's not only broken bodies, but he's obliterated Graceland, destroying the Honky Tonk Man's longest title reign claim in unflappable fashion. Does anybody take the Intercontinental title from Gunther? Whoever does, they will be absolutely made by doing so. Emotionally, Chad Gable still feels like the guy who may lead way to be the next IC champ. Partly because I don't want to see his poor daughter crying again. Gunther, you bad, bad man, making kids cry, brah. We've seen some big roster changes to the main divisions in WWE, particularly the women's divisions in 2023, with new championships to replace the Raw and SmackDown gold. When Asuka ended Bianca Belair's phenomenal 420 as Raw Women's Champ, she was awarded a redesigned, rebranded title, gold with a white strap. Lovely stuff. Asuka spent her third run as top woman embroiled in a rivalry with Charlotte Flair, who returned the moment the new belt was revealed like a 6-foot blonde magpie. And the besmirched former champ Bianca Belair was in the mix there too. This culminated at SummerSlam with the EST regaining the title she lost at Mania. However, she would complement her longest title reign with her short est one, losing in a few minutes after winning the belt to Money in the Bank casher inner Io Sky. One of the founding members of Damage Control has controlled the damage as champ, beating Asuka on SmackDown, putting both Asuka and Charlotte away at Fastlane, shutting down Belair at Crown Jewel with the help from Kairi Sane, who complements the new and improved Damage Control. The game has changed since Io reached the sky. Damage Control recruiting new members, with Bayley looking reluctant about the reshuffle. Don't be surprised if, now that Charlotte Flair is out of the title picture due to injury, that we see maybe Bayley breaking free and looking to hug the women's title in 2024. That is, if the Queen of the Sky will let her get that close to it. Just as we said, no more is it a case of Raw and SmackDown women's titles. It's all changed. So long to the Raw women's title, and hi to the WWE Women's World Championship. Rhea Ripley unseated Charlotte Flair in a well-received banger at WrestleMania to begin a tear on top of the world. And with the new reign came the new belt, the Women's World Championship. Gold with a white strap. Lovely stuff. Ripley is undeniably WWE's hottest star of 2023 and is leading both the Judgment Day and the Monday Night Women's Wrestling offering. Whilst being featured prominently on Raw, her title defenses haven't been as varied as you think. An emotional match against Zelina Vega at Backlash in Puerto Rico, 2 defenses against Natalya, 2 against Raquel Rodriguez, a 5-way free-for-all at Crown Jewel, a well-received battle with Zoe Stark at Survivor Series. Not many in comparison to others. Less is truly more for Rhea, though. She has developed so much as a character and a presence this year that it seems a shame to consider her title reign ending next year, especially with the Elimination Chamber in February emanating from her homeland. Some big hitters are waiting in the wings for Mammy Dearest. We've seen the rise of Ivy Nile getting into the mix soon. We've seen maybe a Raw-bound Bianca Belair could be there. And what truly happens with Rhea Ripley's title reign when the man finally comes around? The final 2 titles in our Tour of Triumph have both been held by one competitor respectively, both of which found their feet in riot gear. We start with the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It wasn't the strongest of starts, I'll be honest. While it resembles WCW's classic big gold, the one that became the World Heavyweight Championship in years gone by during Triple H's Reign of Terror, TM, it didn't carry the same lineage and was instead a brand new clean slate of a strap. Also, Triple H revealed on Raw that he created the belt essentially because no one could beat Roman Reigns, immediately giving it the pang of a consolation prize. Now, the first gold holder set out to prove that it was anything but that, as Seth Rollins defeated AJ Styles at Night of Champions to be crowned the first World Heavyweight Champion. Rollins wanted the belt to be the workhorse title, so he set about putting it on the line against anybody and everybody. It even got defended against Bron Breakker on NXT early into Seth's reign. After a stiff rivalry with the Judgment Day, which arced back to Seth Rollins injuring Finn Balor the night he won the Universal Championship all those years ago, Shinsuke Nakamura entered the title picture, warning Seth Rollins, "I know about your back." Rollins' real-life worn-down body was used to cast doubt over Seth's ability to persevere as world champion. Despite this spinal uncertainty, Rollins freakishly fought off Shinsuke at Payback and again at Fastlane, and survived a reinvigorated Drew McIntyre at Crown Jewel and on Raw Day 1. Sami Zayn even got a pop in there in this year as well. How long did Rollins plan to be the guy? And how long he can be the guy is yet to be seen. He could really do with a few months just to have a little kip, in my opinion. CM Punk may very well be the guy who encourages Seth to go to sleep at WrestleMania this year, with an outside possibility being Senior Money in the Bank Damian Priest winning the big one off the back, pun intended, of Seth's success. We will see. We close out with Seth's former tag partner and former hated rival, the guy who by night 2 of WrestleMania will have been on tippity top for 1,316 days. Roman Reigns' story as both WWE Champion and WWE Universal Champion felt like it would conclude in April, but it kicked out in a big way, whether we wanted it to or not, metaphorically telling Cody Rhodes to stick his story up his arse. Roman Reigns survived yet another Mania as the guy and was rewarded with slightly less hardware. To recognise his 1,000th day on top, Triple H smelted the WWE and Universal titles together into one big, lovely gold belt, essentially mashing the WWE Championship lineage with that of the lesser acknowledged Universal title. To that end, we can now put Roman on the path of becoming the most successful WWE champion of all time, surpassing all but 3 people: Hulk Hogan, Bob Backlund, and Bruno Sammartino. So, what's Roman been up to in 2023? Well, less than ever, you'll be shocked to hear. When he does turn up, though, it's an event. He ended the dreams of Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber. He stopped a tribal uprising by defeating Bloodline defector Jey Uso at SummerSlam. He wrapped up the year by putting away LA Knight at Crown Jewel, at which point it became glaringly obvious to even the most ardent of Roman fans what very little he's done this year has been unbelievably predictable and pretty boring, if we're being honest. Long, slow matches that sprint to the finish line with near falls, spears, and copious amounts of Uso run-ins. Regardless, Roman Reigns is still the biggest wrestling star on the planet, and him merely turning up is a spectacle. But WWE are having to decide between statistics and storylines. Cody Rhodes feels like he has to be the one to end Roman's reign at long last, but there's a strong temptation to hold off Cody's epilogue a little longer in order to get Roman over that 1,500-day mark and firmly put Hulk Hogan's longest reign in the rear view mirror, brother. Next time you and I gather in that post-Christmas malaise to break down all the title movers and shakers of 2024, we'll know what the answer is, whether they choose statistics or other. Unless AEW had another 30 titles, in which case we might give it a miss. Of course, the other addition to this was last night with the return of The Rock, who talked about wanting to go for dinner and sit at the head of the table, firmly putting The Rock back into the mix for the title heading into WrestleMania or possibly Elimination Chamber. Cody Rhodes sat there somewhere looking as sad as that time someone threw a rubber duck at him, potentially missing out on his story-conclusive WrestleMania. We're yet to find out. That is stuff to talk about next time we do this video breakdown. Regardless, Roman Reigns, the most consistent champion of the year outside of Athena on Ring of Honor. Nearly MJF had it not been for the rise of Samoa Joe. What is it with Samoans called Joe who just keep on keeping on? Stay safe. Love you. Bye.